This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world. Let's get going. You want to kick us off?
Sure. I guess general feelings of the week is number one. So for me, I have been this insanely high energy, and I would say aggressive is probably the best way to sum up the way I've been feeling this week. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm stuck in front of a screen and I've got all this pent up energy because I'm in general typically a high energy person. But yeah, I don't know, the aggressiveness, if you will, and high energy is definitely oozing this week.
Yeah, okay. What does that translate it into?
What do you mean by that?
Sales and marketing, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, what's the energy being channeled into? Okay, yeah, sales and marketing. Lots of good team questions, and I'll get into kind of some of that once we discuss yours, where that's going.
Cool. Okay, I guess that's my cue. So came back from the wedding in Hawaii, obviously, and slammed is probably the word I would use. Block out an entire week. By revenue, when I look at it, we should be at like 6 or 7 employees, and we had the one guy put in his 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks ago, so he's not here anymore. So we're at 40-50% of the amount of staff we should be after I took a week off. So I am a little stress ball right now.
I mean, you seem positive though and relaxed. Like I think the week was probably good from at least my experience at vacations. It allows for some recharge because I mean, hopefully that'll allow you to catch up. Just don't burn yourself out now in the next 2 weeks here. Yeah.
And if you remember when we chatted while I was on vacation, I was all worried about the tariffs and that, whether, I'm not a big fan of the approach behind the speed of the tariffs, but man, has it been good for business for us. I was a little bit worried that our, customers would be suffering and what the downstream effects, for our customers were. But it seems everybody's onshoring, and as a company that mostly sells B2B in the U.S., we've seen a real surge, even as I think we've been less aggressive with marketing. So that's exciting, but stressful when we're already struggling to keep up.
Yeah, it's understandable. You'll work through it. I'm confident in that. Yeah. You're making the right decisions to get in front of all those battles, if you will.
Yep. And then a little bit of hiring stuff. I'm still, I'm debating like what level of person do I hire? Do you hire the $80,000 guy or the $110,000 guy? And we have a couple open positions, and I'm debating like, do I hire one person and deal with the training? Do I hire multiple simultaneously and take the risk? There's a few really good people that I'm enthusiastic about, and I gotta make some decisions pretty shortly here.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
It's always fun. It's interesting hearing salaries too from where you're living, because cost of living is so much different there. I mean,
yeah.
That's an interesting battle to try and challenge in manufacturing for you, is trying to hire some of the team members you need, knowing that you have the cost of living battle.
Yeah, and there's always a question of like, the output of an employee isn't necessarily tied to their wage. You might get lucky and hire a guy, especially if you like bring them up from within, who gives you a lot better value than what the market rate of a. I think the optimal thing to do as an employee is to jump every couple of years, right? So yeah, that's trying to walk that line while hiring for a small business is hard.
Yeah, for sure. All right, sales and marketing is next up. Do you want to go first this time?
I want you to go first. I talked too much already.
Oh my goodness, Michael.
I want to hear what your high energy has channeled into.
So it's well, I guess since the beginning of the year, we're aware that basically half my time's been just strictly on sales calls, sales emails, sales tasks within HubSpot. And then I'd say another 50% of that, so 25%, let's say, goes towards that. Or 50% goes to sales, 25% is going to marketing, and then another 25 is going towards like team. That converging, what's interesting is in the last couple of weeks, I've had a record number of booked sales calls. I know this number is not going to sound high to anybody out there, but we evaluated 8 unique machines this week. To me, that is like mind-boggling. Yeah. Like if I talked to 8 unique machine people in a month, a couple years ago, that was insane. And now to literally I have a couple yet this week, but to see that many calls just to evaluate new machines coming in, and then seeing what the team's outputting in proposals for custom machines, semi-custom at this point, 'cause we've quoted so many of these different palletizers or packaging machines. It looks like in the last 2 weeks, we're going to end up quoting 5 machines.
Yeah.
Which is like you said, the momentum that's happening in the market, there's a clear driver here. Like we just had one of them where we were quoting, I just got off the call literally 30 minutes ago now. And we're looking at deploying it in one plant. And the guy's like, well, what happens if we want to just do this globally across, the other 3 plants we have this year yet?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, well, you said you just wanted to do one this year. And he's like, well, things are changing.
Yep.
It's like, well, as long as we do one of them first, 'cause they're straightforward packaging or straightforward palletizing projects, very much MRS-esque software. They just have a little bit of a unique spin on it. So we've got to do some custom engineering, but nothing crazy. It's like, well, if you deploy it across one, we do that immediately and we can get that done in, say, the next 4 to 5 months. And then we do all the others in parallel. Yeah, we could at least be running them and to be done Q1 of next year. And so that was an interesting call. And then it's kind of been a theme where one of the other projects was like, all right, so what happens if we buy, faster than anticipated? It's like, okay, so I guess there's, I want to see these sales though, is the big thing. There's like a lot of these questions. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. 8 machines or 8, pitches, proposals, whatever in a week for the scale you guys are doing. I mean, we do 7 or 8 and our quotes are much, much smaller.
Yeah, I'd say for context, most of those were MRS or palletizing. So I'd say the average quote cost on that was like $250,000.
Yeah, only $250,000.
So it's
our average quote's like $30,000, right?
We'll see what the conversion is on this.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever seen this in develop history. So I don't know. I'm wound up excited, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a change from the last 2 weeks because I know you've been kind of like, man, I want a big sale. And
I still do.
Yeah, but I'm seeing excitement, which is good, right?
Yeah, I'm starting to see some momentum. Like several of the deals that I thought were like dead in the water have come back, and like I had some really good text messages with some of these leads, and they're like, yeah, we're just trying to figure this out. And I'm like, I thought like they'd ghosted me for a period of time, and they apologized. Like, yeah, we dropped the ball on this. We had other things, but yeah, you're on our radar right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with those. Even if I get no's at this point, like I just want to know what's happening with them.
Yeah, for sure. And do you know, or is MRS too new for you to like have an idea on the close rate?
Too new to know the close rate yet. It's just it's interesting while it's a product. There's still such a level of custom that kind of goes into the pitch because it's like, all right, the one that I just got off the call on, they need a unique end effector because they have 2 cases they need to pick. One's blistering on the top and another one's caving in. So we have to have a vacuum gripper with an assisted mechanical system to pick these. We have another project, I think I talked about this last week, where it's a palletizer and it's an MRS, but they need an industrial solution. The issue is to build their industrial solution is going to take 1.5 to 2 years. And it's like, why don't we just drop some MRSs in there and get you rolling within 90 days? And then in 2 years, if you want to throw those things in the dumpster, you already 2x'd your money on them. It doesn't matter. You can throw $150,000 system in the trash because you still made $150,000 on it in the meantime.
I'm sure you really told them is we can relocate this.
No, I told them to throw it in the trash because of how much money they're going to make.
Yeah.
Like, I think the CEO on the call is like, holy crap, this guy's not joking. It was a really comical call of like, yeah, you could throw, because you're throwing that money away anyways.
Right. Yeah.
So sorry, my energy is very high. So you can.
Oh, I can tell. Yeah. And I think I asked you this before. Do you cold call at all?
No strict cold calls.
Yeah.
I will do calls based on like leads from shows that we've engaged with that have gone colder, we'll say, but they were at least qualified as a lead.
Yep. All right, I'll let you keep going. No more questions.
Does that count as a cold call?
I don't think so. I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never like printed out a list and just worked down it.
Yep. Any marketing stuff for you this week?
A couple things. A lot of it's really pushing towards the updates to the website. So we've
Yep.
got a lot of stuff happening there. It's interesting. So we're changing the product layout to make the buyer journey easier, as everybody's been hearing. It just takes us a little longer to get some of these things done, just the way we go about it. That should all be going live for Automate is the goal. So it's going 5.5, all the CAD's done. It's just now we got to get the 35 product pages built out and on the site. So it's ready to go. The other one being is we're productizing our automation assessment service. So that's going to be something you can buy directly on our website, or you can click a link. That should be live on Tuesday. We've seen great acceptance of that. We're going to go with kind of a good, better, best model, where the good is you get education support. So it's like $2,500. You can talk to me X number of times, get engineering support, get all our tools for quoting jobs or evaluating them, ROI calculations, as like you're trying to just look at the business side of it, if you will, and then evaluate multiple projects in parallel to build a roadmap. If you're wanting to do it yourself, we then offer a level above that. That's $12,500, where we're going to put somebody on site for 2 days, evaluate, and give you all that stuff for you. Kind of consider that the light executive or small business option. And then we've got the full package, which is actually have had 2 calls on that this week as well, where it looks like people are interested in this. And it's going to be before we build a machine. They want us to come in and do the 2 days on site, do the assessment, and then spend several months with them just talking back and forth on what the engineering is. And that comes with 40 hours a month on retainer to just do automation quoting. Because that's been the big pain, is we do so much of this free engineering, and it's like with the amount of proposals we're coming in, we're just not able to service some of these people anymore. And I don't like saying no. So it's, how can we still give that service that I still want to give to some of these customers, as long as they're willing to pay for it?
Yeah. This might not apply at all, but it's just, I'm just going to throw something out there. When we were just getting into contract manufacturing and these weird kind of engineering projects, not automation, long before that. One thing I read in a book somewhere, or listened to, because I only do audiobooks, was the idea of like, in the book, the guy talks about how they went from a 10-page proposal to a 1-page proposal, and they expected their conversion rate to go down, it went up, right? And that's one thing that, now with Gimbal Automation, we used to make like CAD mockups for all of our customers. And, what we ended up doing was just going through our kind of standard sales pitch on that, conflict, resolution, solution. I got that wrong, but
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And, through that kind of process, we kind of got rid of all the custom stuff and just kind of created a rough estimate of how much we thought it would cost. Put the proposal, pay now link button, and kind of 2 things happened. The first is we were having an issue early on where customers would see what we were doing, on this custom design, fixture or whatever, and they go build it.
We've definitely seen that.
That was issue number 1. And issue number 2 was that we were just spending too much engineering time quoting.
Yeah.
But it's harder for you. I mean, to close a $250,000 sale. I mean,
the $250,000 are cut and dry palletizers. It's when we get into the $500,000 to $2 million, we have to engineer some of that stuff. There's just so much risk. Like, we're spending $10,000 to $30,000 just to put a proposal together. But it's getting to the point now where we're getting so many requests for proposals that it's like, if we don't think there's conviction, or we think they're too early in the journey and we're just going to be educating them, which we really want to do, how do we put them into the package that best suits where they're currently at in their automation journey and doesn't cost develop engineering resources that aren't getting paid for?
Yeah. We can go back and forth on this all day. Let me go through my stuff really quick, and then let's talk about questions, because I don't want to totally disrupt the format, because I got tons of marketing and sales stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah, go for it.
So I guess the first thing worth noting, I got back from the, almost vacation, kind of the destination wedding. We call it our pre-honeymoon. And, just so many sales calls. I moved it over to like a Calendly, and, it limits like 2 or 3 a day, and every single day had the max booked out. The lots and lots of sales call. I'm definitely seeing I'm seeing a big surge in demand. And I think, you had mentioned that there's like customers who you thought they were a dead lead. And I'm seeing now that a lot of those customers have come back, said, hey, I want to do this project now. And then they have paid the deposit invoice, which, you know, I just kind of send quotes out into the ether, even if I think it's a dead lead, just to give a pay now button for someone to throw their credit card in. And the number of those that has come back has been surprising.
Interesting.
But I've also become a little stressed because, these customers might have been quoted 8 weeks and now we're quoting 16 or 20. And
Well, you have a termination date on those, don't you? Like the quote is only good for X days.
yeah, it's good for 45 days. But so, that's caused some conversations of, hey, we're getting a little pushed out. I'm a little panicked about the Gantt charts, but I guess that's out of sales and marketing. And, one of the things, I had mentioned that I was in, EO Entrepreneurs Organization a while ago and had my old forum, which was super toxic, moved into a new one, like, I don't know, 2-3 months back, and which has been night and day. And
Interesting.
and it's like a 6-hour session, on a weekday, which sucks as a business owner. Had that on Monday, right?
6 hours
Well,
every week?
No, every month. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
I was like,
it's
holy
4 to 5
buckets.
hours straight in a room, right? So we'll rotate what office it's in, and then like a 2-hour dinner. So it ends up being 7-8 hours, after the initial half work day. So they're exhausting days, and I did that Monday. And I was kind of talking through all of this with the guys there, and one of the pieces of feedback I got was first off, they asked like, oh, are you doing any cold calling? And I was like, no, it's all inbound. And there's kind of, I think, skepticism in the room from like, well, if you're only going outbound or you're not doing any outbound, you're likely leaving a lot on the table, right? And the other piece of feedback that I got was, hey, you clearly are good at the sales role. We saw like after we fired our sales guy, literally doubling of sales revenue the next month.
Owners are always going to be the best at sales.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not always, but like you have the most conviction.
Yeah. And I'm spending half my time on it, which has gone up a lot from, I don't know, a quarter, a fifth of my time before. But another piece of feedback I got is like, hey, if this sales thing's really working for you, maybe the best way to grow the organization is to, get everything else systemized to be less reliant on you, which is something I think I'm just starting to really think about. I think you've already done that pretty well.
I really believe in that and empowering the team to do it. There's some costs associated with that because the team has to learn, and there's an expense very clearly of some of that. But once they figure out how to start building those processes themselves, it starts becoming organic, and the further and further you can step out and really trust the team.
Yep.
I really believe in that, but I also have no desire to be in operations as this business continues to grow. Like I made that decision very early on. I don't want to operate. I enjoy being in the manufacturing and I really enjoy being on our floors. I don't think that's where I can best serve the growth of our business.
Yeah. What's funny about operations for me is that I kind of thought I was in that boat of like hating operations, like hating all of these things. And we grew the company so fast, like a couple of years ago. And we're like at 14 people at the peak. And a lot of the people I think I didn't, they say hire slow, fire fast. I think I hired fast and fired slow. And I had some people that really didn't build processes, kind of did the bare minimum, tried to make it look like they were, going above and beyond, but definitely were not. And I think I really felt a burden, like trying to keep everything going. And now that all those people have since churned, like I don't hate running operations anymore, which is kind of funny. Yeah.
I don't know if did I say I hate operations?
No, but like I
like,
don't actually mind running it. I don't think it's like my ideal fit long term, but it used to be something I like actively hated, and I was trying to like actively recruit someone to go into that spot.
I think you noted something there really worth digging into. I mean, we can kind of roll into that as improvements comment here, but the churn of those early employees, what happens, like from my experience, is there's been two paths. The team members that are willing to change as the processes need to change,
Yep.
or are actually liberated by it, like saying, the old way when we were smaller was not efficient. We can't scale a business on, and they own it.
Right.
Or there's the ones that the processes are changing around them and they continue to operate like we're a 2 to 3 person company, 4-person company, where everything could be ad hoc. No processes don't exist. I'm not going to take notes with customers. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z because we never had to.
Right.
There's those two boats. And once you get the people that are wanting to move forward because that's the only way to scale the business, yeah, I'd agree that your pains are less. So I think the fact that you're seeing that is probably really exciting for you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the other things that was a real kick in the pants for us is, we have kind of one really small and one medium-ish like contract engineering projects left. One of those companies, the bigger one, is in between fundraising as well. So they kind of drop down to zero, and that's really been a kick in the pants for me to turn that automation dial. And in so doing, the money has come in, which is good, but at the same time, it really it's starting to feel like one cohesive business and not like 7, which took some time to get here.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that one. 'Cause I feel like we still got 7 businesses over here just based on the vision of where Develop's going. So
Don't get me wrong, like there's still some chaos and like trying to get our machining department like cohesive and efficient is a big priority right now. Especially the problem is like all of our domestic manufacturers have just, they've gone up in price 3x because they're getting so busy.
since when? Like 3x since what date?
Well, I mean, these are mostly like small 1 to 4 man shops.
Okay.
But literally since the tariffs, they've they're taking really long on RFQs. The pricing has gone up a lot, and so a lot of our supply chain has been hit in a negative way. We kind of have backup, and for a few part numbers, we have primarily what were Chinese vendors. Of course, those are now 4 times as expensive. So for us, it's like now very much a priority to in-source as much as we can. And on an accelerated timeline, which I'm guessing is what our customers are feeling and why we're seeing, bumps in numbers.
I think so. I mean, I was at one site visit or one of my calls that I had to go physically this week, and it's they're a major supplier of one component that only a few people in the world make, and one of the other major competitors is in China. Mm-hmm. And if the tariffs occur the way that they're expecting, they become the same price overnight.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like, we evaluated solving some of their problems, but if that plays out, they have such a global challenge within their organization to try and scale.
Yeah.
That like, we're not talking, millions of dollars. We're talking like potentially $100+ million shift in their business. Like it's huge.
Yep.
Like just because of the tariffs. It's interesting.
So, now that, I've been proven wrong about the tariff thing, I guess this is one, at least for us personally, obviously it's going to destroy some businesses and make others. I'm glad we're on the right side of that right now. But, given that it's affected us positively, when I think I was worried about negatively, I think the next thing I'm trying to figure out is how aggressively do we grow? Because, we, in just that automation segment doubled revenue month to month. And I feel like we could do it again, but obviously that's a terrible idea when we were already short-staffed.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
So my preliminary plan, and I just wanted to sanity check this with you, was 431, do a price increase kind of across the board to try to bring supply and demand a little bit more in check, and bring in some percentage of that additional cash that could come in the door. Obviously, we're gonna have some customers drop off, which is kind of the point, without trying to push the growth too hard.
I guess that on surface level makes sense. What are you talking about, like on a 431 price increase? Because I know you've done like a 30% price increase already in the last 6 months.
Yeah, well, a lot of that was just bringing us up to market or like market value of the things. Like with grippers, like PhD Ink makes one, Jergens makes one. They're like $7,000. It's like insane.
Yeah.
So moving from $1,100 to $1,400 was like not a big deal.
Yeah.
The I'm thinking somewhere between like 10 and 25%. And I've disclosed this to everyone with an existing quote out. They're saying, hey, we're gonna keep your quotes in effect for the term of the quote, but after that, there's gonna be a price bump. The because I have that like optimistic side in me, and I think you do too, that says, oh, we can figure it out.
But that's what you have to like. Eventually, you just have to make a decision, and you're going to go with it, and then you're going to figure it out on the other side. Like either way, there's going to be pros and cons to it. You're going to make mistakes along the way. I think the key is just to make a decision and stick to it.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure that out because I got really burned by this very rapid growth the first time around that didn't turn out to be sustainable, and a lot of it was out of our control that time too, in that we didn't know our customer was having financial issues. And I guess part of my kind of background fear there, and a little bit of this conservatism, is coming from these things can change overnight. Apparently, if the tariffs just poof are gone May 1st, I would hate to have overstaffed and overplayed my hand once again, right?
I think that comes down to a liquidity question, because I've had a similar question myself as I'm seeing growth here and potential backlog of work. And I think it comes down to, because we had a similar challenge, or not the same, but different challenge, but same results of growing rather rapidly, having some things not go as intended. And then you result with some pains with that growth. I mean, growth burns cash. So I think that comes down to, at least the way I'm looking at it, is depending upon what your cash cushion, your liquidity, line of credit, stuff like that looks like, I think should be driving that. And I think you just need to have a checks and balance, because you can say, all right, we're going to try and double again. And if that's what you start to do, it's not like you double overnight. It's you do it as a stair step, and you see how that goes after 1 month, a quarter, or scorecards still in line, or stuff getting out of whack. We're not hiring that person now because we are, or hey, our metrics are ahead of schedule. Let's actually look at it that way. I think it's just watching the right data metrics. And like you said, you haven't loved the P&L or balance sheet in the past. I think it's just going to become more critical to watch that as you try and go back to that aggressive growth, because now you know what you didn't know.
Yep. Yeah, and I think I talked about this before. Like the problem is we grew so much that top line revenue grew, expenses grew, and we were playing the game of, okay, I'm fine if we break even, but then you double in size, and it turns out what was now 2 months of operating cash is one, because there was no cash being actually added to the business. I guess that's kind of a question for you too, of what are your kind of golden rules? Is it 2 months expenses on hand? How do you think about liquidity? I know you had mentioned at one point that you're like, okay, if we're break even, I'm okay with that. Is that still your rule?
I'm still fine because I'm long on develop. I'm very long on develop. I'm not trying to peel cash out. I actually gave myself the first raise I've had in 5 years this year. So I still don't make a whole lot on develop, but basically I needed to make it so I could still pay for groceries.
Right.
But that is still my plan for it. But to your question of cash on hand, that's an interesting question for us, because it's easy to, when you have a large project come in and you have $500,000 dropped in your lap, it can be very deceiving. So at that point, there's you can utilize that cash, but at the same point, that cash has to be utilized to build that machine. So I think that's where, like, what we run on a cash basis is typically the way I'm looking at accounting. There's still the accrual that needs to be happening to make sure that those project funds are properly understood when that money is actually realized, because there's always this split where it's like, all right, you have the large funds come in, the work is partially done, so we're getting paid for stuff that's done, we're getting paid for stuff that's in the future. And it's just understanding that. It's some squishy math. I realize I'm getting a very gray area answer.
Sure.
But I think it's more or less understanding, where's our line of credit standing at? What's our cash balance standing at? What's our payments from our customers looking like too? Because sometimes that's something that is concerning to, all right, I want to hire a team member, but everybody on our customer list is late on payments for some reason in the market. And that's happened to us too. And that's outside my control. I can't know that until real time.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. As a roundabout
Well,
answer
I guess
to
like
give you a non-answer.
for like a less squishy answer, like maybe not what you do have, but like what would you like to have in terms of liquidity overall? Is it 2 months revenue, or is it 2 months expenses? Or is it only a squishy answer right now?
Yeah, so I'm always evaluating what our burn is. So
Yeah.
say I always have a metric of if all work stops, which we've had happen in the business,
Yep.
like we just weren't able to receive on bills because of what happened, what played out last year for a large period of time. Develop was able to operate for 4 months without income. I don't like having to play that card, but that's
Right.
where we were able to run for 4 months without a paycheck. And I'm really glad we had put those stop gaps in place to pull us through those things.
Yep. Gotcha.
And we could have gone a little bit longer at that period.
Okay. Cool. Do you have any thoughts on like have you ever leveraged debt for growing the company for what are your thoughts? Yeah. Beyond like line of credit, like have you gone to the point of like term loans? Presumably, I think you own the building. Probably there's a mortgage on the building, but
Yeah, so obviously bought the building, or as you're aware of. So that's a SBA loan over 30 years. That's what
yeah,
still 2.1 million still owe on that thing, 2.2 somewhere in there. I
Yep.
forget the actual exact number. When I bought the first Datron, kind of like we talked about, I bought that as it was must have been a 5 year because we pay that off in February here. I was just looking at that. So 5 year loan, machine was 250. I took out 375 to give me operating cash and do some other improvements and tools that we needed. So leveraged my house to do that, but cash is needed to grow a business. You need to find it somewhere. So I was more willing to do that because it self-sustained it. I also believe in leveraging debt versus your liquidity in cash if you can, because I view it as a tool. There's balances that you need to watch on that as well, but that's kind of my approach to it. I don't know if that helped answer it at all.
So yeah, you're fond of it.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of debt. You just need to know how you plan to utilize it and be strategic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we're in the middle of refining some of our existing machine debt to get the loan to like a sane service amount. I mean, I think we're spending almost 20 grand every month servicing debt, which is mostly due to the kind of short-ish terms on a lot of machine purchases, right? And obviously the industry is so capital intensive. You go and buy in a rapid growth spurt, 3-4 machines on 5 year terms. Even with good APR, and then all of a sudden you're servicing a lot. So yeah, that's one thing that's been on my mind. And
your debts. I was just trying to run my debt. I think your debt service is actually. Yeah, you should be looking. I'm curious on that.
It's the terms are too problematic because I think I was too gung ho on nice low APRs on shorter terms, and didn't really think about the cash flow implications.
Yeah, that's a real thing, and there's definitely a balance on that because it's you don't want to carry a machine for 30-year debt because you'll still be paying for that thing once it's in the dumpster.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's always a challenge. But yeah, I just wanted to. I guess we kind of steered away from marketing, and I didn't even talk about marketing.
Well, you did for a little bit.
Yeah,
you talked about sales, I guess.
Yeah, I talked about sales, and like marketing for us, I still feel like I'm not doing a good enough job. But the stuff is coming in the door. but I think that's more of market conditions rather than us doing a good job right now.
I want to circle back to the marketing on cold calls one.
Oh yeah.
I know you're not a fan of Hermosi, who I was talking about, but I've enjoyed some of his books.
I like his advice and his content. I'm more skeptical of the content trained people who sell courses, right?
Oh, I mean, he gives away a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, other than paying for some books, I haven't.
Yeah.
bought anything from him. And it's not like I've never had like a spam inbox or anything. He also might have changed that because he's only selling courses or advising people now that are over X size because he's wanting to invest in them. Mm-hmm. So now he's giving everything away and he's spun it that way. But either way, something that I enjoyed from his books is the cold calls because he talks about how powerful they can be, but he also talks about how difficult they are to set up.
Yep.
So I think that's one thing before you just run into the cold call process. Understand that it's not going to be something that starts working probably overnight. I mean, sometimes you'll get a couple wins in there, but it's building out the script, and it becomes really powerful when you can put somebody else in the chair and using the scripts that you've built out.
Yeah, I will say there's no way that I was going to go do cold calls myself, right?
Okay.
I'm barely above water with like existing calls and the rest of my responsibilities. One of the guys in the EO forum I asked him how he did it, and he basically said, hey, I have, remote employees that are, in Canada and US speaking places. Pay them $20 an hour, and then, pay them $50, $100 per call, full on call they place with me, right? So they're already vetted as warm leads, I think is the idea.
Okay. And I kind of disagree with that model, actually. I think I'm actually going to go on what Alex says is you need to feel the pain, and you need to make those cold calls for at least the first 30 days and figure out a way you're going to go about it and build out the process and the tools, and then have the team leverage that. Because what I think will happen is, and basically not what I think, what he said and I agree with, is you'll have a much higher conversion rate on that. So you should ideally pay somebody more to do that task then. So maybe you have a technician or an engineer that's, maybe it's $25 or $30 an hour. Somebody that has some background on it that can do a little bit better job on those calls, but they have a script to follow.
Right.
And that's a script that Michael built out because he tested it. He knew what to say in those situations, and you allow them to work on that.
Yeah.
That's what I think would be a good hybrid of that.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I guess that's a question. Are you going to start doing something like that?
As of right now, I'm still doubling down on our marketing within SEO.
Yep.
I've been long on that for the last 3 years. It's really starting to trickle right now. We are averaging a couple leads here that are working in the right way. I'm really optimistic on this last turn of the website based on other optimizations, but our traffic's 4x'd in the last 6 months to our website.
Yeah.
So that's significant.
I will. I did want to let you know, because I went to the website like while we were on the call. It seems like the site slowed down again.
So we're going through updates to the site. Okay. It's always slower on initial launches. Yeah. So yes, I am aware of that. It'll be back up to speed, because what's happening is they're running a staging site in the background right now. Okay. So 5.5, we've got to deal with this slower website till 5.5, which is a bit frustrating. What is that? It's 2 weeks away.
Yep.
So, yep. But I mean, from first glance, what do you think of the new homepage? Because that's going to be the theme that's going to carry throughout.
Seems more clear. I mean, that's the big thing. And just putting the video there, like at the very top, I think makes a lot of sense. I think are these flipped around from how they used to be? Is that?
This whole
thing's changed. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't even want to try and compare it to the old site. We changed so much. We used to try and pack a lot more. This is very automation heavy, except for the banner. And now the banner, if you click it, it doesn't auto scroll. It's so we had the other keywords for our products and industrial product development and our manufacturing stuff.
Yep. We've been playing, or I've been wanting to play with our homepage too. I think you're definitely right to keep it focused on automation, put the products in their own category. I guess really the only thing I would say is just, I think you need to jam more call to action in here, just more CTAs.
Interesting.
Because like they're kind of my rule is like there should be nowhere on the page that somebody can click without moving them down in the funnel. So like if you go to our website, they're like pretty much everywhere. There's actually one place where apparently I don't follow the rule, but there are send us a message, book a demo page things just constantly, and that's something that when we added those in to where you basically couldn't scroll without seeing a CTA, we saw considerably better booking rates.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing like the about develop should actually have one there. I agree with that. Those are things I'll put that on the list here.
But they're a button. Most of the buttons go to the same place. Yeah.
So that's easy to do.
But you guys are at the point too where you might consider talking to the marketing firm and actually A/B testing it, of going and putting index 1, index 2, and seeing if you have different click-through rates, different booking rates off that page.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff we want to start doing, and I guess it's probably going to be July, some A/B testing and heat mapping. But there's some There's some new products that we're working on launching, ideally June, July, and then that stuff would come right after.
Yeah. And it's easy for me to talk about this. Like, we've never done a proper A/B test.
No,
We're like, it looks nicer, and then we see if people click, if our overall booking rate goes up. It's very unscientific right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's working.
yeah. Well, we're already at 40 minutes. Do you want to kind of go through the rest of the?
Holy crap!
Yeah.
So engineering and R&D. I guess there anything else for sales and marketing? I realize that's been the theme for the week.
I think that's just where both of our heads are at right now.
Yeah, for engineering and R&D, there's nothing too crazy. We've got a factory acceptance testing happening on Monday for the torquing machine. I'm really happy with that. I went and ran the machine for 20 minutes today. Nothing broke. That was awesome. There was like nothing that I wanted to like change on anything that needed to be done. Like it's really cool to see that like the last 2 weeks, all that's been happening with this machine is just like trying to break it.
Yeah.
And it's continuing to run, knock on wood. Like in the past, it's always seemed like, oh, we've got these few little things that don't have to be done, but it's like factory acceptance seems like a squeeze at the end, and it's like we're really prepared. Like we have all the manuals and ready to go. So technically, this is the first time we've ever had all the documentation. So if they wanted to, like, they could load the thing up in their truck if they had a truck big enough.
Yep.
And we could drive straight to their facility because there's nothing left that we have to do for documentation to hand this thing over, other than sign some papers and pay some bills.
Yeah,
so
that's exciting.
I'm really happy with the SOPs, and I haven't like that 30 minutes of testing the machine was like I probably have less than like 15 hours into this entire project that's been a year long.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the team's running without me, and that's so I'm just so proud of them on that. Like I really am excited for it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's driving some of my excitement for the week, is seeing that the team built a machine, they're going to ship it without
and it's finishing out. Yeah.
Like the only engineering I had to do on the thing was, hey Matt, can you run this and tell us what you don't like? And that was like at the end of it, it's done.
Yep. And it wasn't a mess. There wasn't a ton of stuff you didn't like.
No, the cabling on the machine, the cabinet's incredible. It's gorgeous. The sheet metal turned out nice. There's some industrial design to it. It has our new rev of our HMI. We can do remote data analytics. Like it's functioning. Like I don't know. I'm just so jacked about it.
I get you. That's exciting.
So
I guess
that's been the big engineering for us this week. Yeah, you're up.
I guess engineering R&D, it's kind of the same deal for us, where it's like doing the engineering R&D on existing projects. We have an intraload that there was some, miscommunication between us and the customer. We thought it was a Gen 3 machine. It was a Gen 2 machine. And we knew it was compatible, but we hadn't anticipated doing the engineering for the Gen 2 UMCs just yet. We went, luckily this is a local customer. We went, took measurements, and kind of altered the intraload design. So instead of like 3 rows of 3 pallets, it's 5 vertical rows of 2 pallets. Luckily that's going to work out just fine, which is a very good. It could have worked out otherwise, and until we took that measurement, it was kind of just a theory. The engineering there, we're kind of trucking along very slowly with the extra load, not as fast as I would like, but when there's existing orders coming in, and we keep pushing out the lead times, it's hard to like pull an engineer and be like, hey, let's make the extra load. This new product that we initially planned for Q4 of this year to come faster. There's that, and just normal turnkey implementation challenges on some of the weird turnkeys. We have tons of the 2-op grip, flip grip stuff, and we don't even think about those. We just kind of do them. And
that's good.
Yeah. But we always have the weird ones. And we kind of have those $25,000 turnkeys, and then we have the $60,000, $70,000 ones. And those ones always have something weird. Maybe they got a PLC slapped on the side of the Doosan or something. And those are harder.
Yeah. Anytime you bring in more controls, more software, the complexity and number of variables associated with that complexity is like in exponential scale.
Yeah. And then there's like little stuff, where as part of turnkeys a lot, someone doesn't have through spindle error. We have 2 of these ongoing where we have to, make a custom flow link block to pass the air in on our like roto flow link grippers, which it feels trivial, but like we don't have the machines on our site, so it becomes kind of this, take these pictures, take this video, get this measurement, and depending on the customer, we usually charge some incremental value to do that, and I guess that's R&D.
Yeah.
But nothing like crazy idea in my head that I'm pushing on right now, because it's just get staffed up, get those people trained, and execute, I think.
Cleaning up is like so liberating for your team too, because I think we have that pain of we got behind, or both of us did. And I know like for us, develop hasn't really felt it until April here. Like we were so slammed, and like just the cascading of events last year that occurred, that it just put us so far behind on where we wanted to be, that like it's interesting just the energy and morale of the team now that they're like, we're not fighting from behind anymore. We're now like executing with our SOPs on the projects we have the way we want to be. And maybe not the way we want to be, but the way we should be, so we can continuously improve. But where I'm going with that is like remaining focused on that, to like, well, you want to do the R&D and the other initiatives, getting cleaned up and consolidated is what I like to call some of that, and getting more efficient on what you're making money on, so you can have more flexibility in the future.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm really in that professionalize, small business flight plan, growing your small business.
Yeah,
small business flight plan.
I love that book. I've been, I guess, talking about it. We've been doing this podcast almost a year now. Yep. So, I mean, that's roughly when I deployed it, was when we started this. But it took me, I read that book for, I think, a year and a half before I deployed any of it.
Right. Yeah. And I'm definitely more prone to, going all in on something and then doing an implementation maybe when I wasn't ready. And I think you're a lot more, slow and meticulous. And yeah, as I'm getting older, I'm going more in that direction.
I had some good mentors, or even some of them were professors. One made a quote that has really stuck with me on reading books and business, is like, because I would get jazzed up about things like while I was taking my master's class, and he flat out just looks me like right in the eyes, and he goes, "Matt, don't become the fucking book of the month club."
Yeah.
It was like that moment, like it's stuck with me, because it's like that book of the month club, or the flavor of the month, because he went on to describe it as, he's like, what happens is your team then sees, oh, this is just Matt's new spice, if you will, what's happening this month. It'll pass. We just have to listen to it, but then it doesn't get deployed. But if you say, this is what we're doing, and you stick to it and you execute it, it gains some traction, is what he was saying. Like, so pick what you want to do and then move.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
So I don't know, that I still remember his face when he said it to me.
Yeah. And I think, one of the other mistakes I made when, I was hiring really fast is, I kind of assumed like, oh, we don't have the SOPs in place, it's because of the chaos. These people aren't managed well enough. And then I made the mistake way too early of doing something incredibly hard, which is putting in effective mid-level management. And now my perspective has shifted to, it's like, until we're at like 20 people, like none, and I think really, when we get 15, 20 people, that's when, not even mid-level management, like that's when you get a COO. And, when you hit 40 or something, that's when you put in, those department heads. And even that's not true mid-level management.
Yeah. I've definitely had that pain where it's like, why aren't these things being done the way I want them? Having done reflection on that, and pains from when we were much smaller, is I came to one conclusion. I didn't explicitly say what I wanted. It wasn't the team members' faults. It was my fault.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
So, and the team loves it when you just give them more details. They want it, which is really cool.
How we get here from R&D and engineering. We're already in general improvements.
We just roll right into company-wide improvements. We've been doing this so long. Did you see how smooth that was?
Yeah. Totally was intentional.
Exactly. Actually, that was one of my comments was SOPs on templates and stuff. A lot of the reason we've been able to bid so much is we templatize so many of our proposals and making it so I just have PDFs living very easy to grab and pull up in calls.
Yeah.
Like it's been very liberating this week on that for SOPs. The only other update otherwise is our machine is now operational as of this week. We got the full training. All the probes are running.
The machine, I was like, your machine, like a machine you bought?
Yeah, the Doosan
the
BVM.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or DVM.
So the BVM 5700. So it's a bridge mill, 570 in the Y and 1050 in the X.
Doosan's naming is like...
Yeah, they add a 0 to the 570 on the Y and call it a day. But it is an awesome machine. That thing is rigid. It's gorgeous. It's making some parts. It's just been commissioned one day, so I won't tout it too much because I've been known to get too excited about things too early. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
That's it for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of places that I think there's room for improvement and trying to be a little bit disciplined about when to do it and when not to. You know, we're starting to get to the point, I don't know if you have this, like our corporate customers are starting to be like, okay, we got to, do a financial review, of your company before we issue a PO. And just little things like putting together, like we have a PDF, like here's our wiring information, putting in a PDF of here's our bank and industry references, and just, making that, here you go. And if you need more or you need us to fill out your special doc, fine. But, eliminating a lot of those pains between, especially on the sales front, between us sending out a quote, it being approved, and then actually getting money in the door. And I'm seeing those things on the shop floor too. But I'm really focused on the small ones because, like we're talking about all of this and I'm like, we can do cold calling. That's a way we can grow the business. We can, put in an additional person to kind of funnel those cold calls into a demo call with me. There's all these things we can do, but the biggest thing right now I'm focused on is getting, people in the door who can grow with us and build the SOPs who aren't me, kind of the mid to high level, machinists and people who hopefully will grow into, department heads as time goes on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Key is you just got to find the right people you want to invest in.
Yeah.
You're betting long on people. That's what you're doing figure out where you want to put that money.
Yeah.
You'll make the right decision.
Yeah. And I'm really, really trying to remember the hire slow, fire fast mindset. I've been very, very bad at firing people I knew needed to be fired like on time.
How do you handle your performance reviews? So we do quarterly reviews. How frequently are you doing it? How structured is the process?
Well, historically, it's kind of been depending on Michael's mood, right? So
okay. That's got to change.
It does, yeah. And I've definitely had this mindset of like, this quarter Michael's going to be a really good business person, and this quarter, I'm going to be pretty much a CTO, and I think that's kind of phasing out. I think a lot of that behavior was because of the chaos and because, I didn't like the engineering, consulting, and contract manufacturing businesses that much, and the automation stuff I love enough that I'm kind of fine doing whatever. So I feel that changing, and I hope that change persists, and I hope it becomes quarterly. There was one book I read where the author of the book basically said, my rule is if I complain to my wife 2 times about an employee, past 6:30 at night, that's when I fire them. I've kind of seen, every time that I've complained to Priscilla, not right when I get home, like where it's fresh, but of like, that's still bothering me.
I see the way you're looking at it. Okay.
And I've seen usually I fire those people, but I do it a quarter too late. And I think I have to take the mindset more like, hey, these people, it's better to do it sooner rather than later, and for everyone involved.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's
that's an interesting strategy. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what your thoughts are there on the.
I do quarterly reviews. I've been doing that since day one, since we started hiring. It's something I set up for Ring Brothers when I was there, a process because there was no performance reviews. There was no career development. And I didn't like that. I was building them a team, and it was like, all right, if we want people to stay here long term, we have to build out processes that show that we're just as invested in their careers they are. I basically just took the stuff that I prototyped for them, and then I've evolved it ever since based on what does and doesn't work. But at the end of the day, I put it in the driver's seat. Most of your team members, when they know they're not doing well, or when you think they're
Yeah.
not doing well, they know they're not,
Right.
and they'll come with those pains. And it's sometimes not always, out of like something they meant to do. They just like they're frustrated on something else, or something else is blocking them, and they want to improve it, and they just need help.
Yep.
Like has been my thing. So giving them an open door to come and have those conversations and be candid with you and be like, this portion's not working, or how can I improve on this, has worked really well for me to make it so they know they're in the driver's seat. And then the other one being that I really like about it is there's accountability that goes both ways. So if I promise to do certain things for them to help with that, we put it in writing.
Yep.
And then we sign it at the bottom, because I'm going to use a line that from my career is I was paid in promises, and it was very disappointing to get to the future state when I thought a promise was going to be delivered, because it was verbally given to me, and I grew up really trusting people's words. I didn't like that. And so if I say something in a meeting that really sticks, I expect them to write it down, and we both sign it and hold each other accountable to it.
Yep.
That's been a really powerful thing that I've seen for our team.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of growth for me. I think I hire a lot of people in that hockey stick growth curve too rapidly with not enough, background, not being thorough enough. And, for the most part, those are the people who churned. The people who were with us before that, when I was in the small business, meticulous hiring, those people are still here. And
interesting.
That's one of those things. And I think I'd mentioned earlier, like, I'm seeing a potential hockey stick, and I'm trying to not get too excited and figuring out what to do.
Why don't you just control it? Can you control the hockey stick and just say, all right, we see it coming. We know we have to hire, rather than hiring 4, you hire 2.
Right.
And then you see how that goes.
Yeah. And that's already where I am is, I was like, okay, we were going to hire 1 on the original plan. Right. And then train them all the way. And now I'm like, all right, fine, I'll hire 2. And I think old me would have hired 4. And I think part of it is, growing up and being disciplined and saying, hey, like there's too much work on the Gantt charts. Like, no, Michael, you can't take that other $60,000 PO unless it's a 16-week lead time. And if you lose that job, you lose the job. Because, like in the machine shop world, everybody quotes you 4 weeks and it's 8, right? And I hate that.
It's frustrating.
Yeah. And I don't want to be that business. And probably, if from a cutthroat business perspective, maybe that's the right thing to do. But I want to deliver when we say we're going to do it, and if it means you lose some customers, then fine.
You're going to lose customers in the short term, Michael.
Yep.
Stay focused on the long term,
Yep.
because if you continue to make those right decisions for the long term health of your business, you might feel some of that short term lost revenue, lost opportunity, but your business is going to be far more sustainable and scalable.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and I think we talked about this like 3 months back. And sorry, this is becoming like a business therapy session for me.
I'm enjoying this. I love this.
We had talked about how I was kind of like a engineering like temporary superpower. Like I could go in for a week, get totally burnt out, work 100 hours, and just make anything happen. And that's kind of one of the blessings that's come along with going and focusing in sales is like there's no time for that, right? I got to have the engineers and the guys on the shop floor do the process slow and steady, as opposed to Michael comes in and fixes everything. And
they don't like that either. You steal their wins.
Yeah. And even when they do, it's like they don't learn from it, right? It's the other people's monkeys, to bring more business book cliches into the mix.
You're getting it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Well, we're at an hour. Do you want to kind of blast through the last ones?
The last thing was, what have you been Googling and questions? I haven't had any questions come in as we were talking about, so I guess we can.
Well, I didn't put it on the story, so.
Okay, so I guess for what have you been Googling? I'm still on this AI kick. I am like very aggressive digging into how I can automate as much of my stuff with AI or software tools, because I'm trying to double my software. Like I have a personal goal by the end of the year. I want to basically double my output on basically lead follow-up and how many sales were able to engage with as a single person with software and AI out there, and it's definitely trending in that direction. That's really what I'm looking at. HubSpot has Breeze that they've rolled out. I've been playing with that a little bit, a little squishy on it, but still playing with a lot of the other tools that I've been looking at.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I'm going to keep listening to you on the AI front. So if you ever find something really cool, please let me know, because Fixer, that obviously you introed me to, has been amazing. And just having a summary of every meeting and then the automatic little draft it makes to follow up with emails or to meetings.
I layer that with ChatGPT now.
Yep.
And then I build out my own GPTs for meeting notes, because I take meeting notes within HubSpot that I track. I have Fixer taking my notes. I then have built out a template that I drop both those notes into ChatGPT, and then it builds me out summarized meeting notes with action items. So basically what the project is, what the risks are, what the action items are coming, and then has really cool emojis in it. It's kind of this looks like a little middle schooler made it, but I kind of like it. Tool, but that's been a really cool layer I've done in there. And then leveraging that for other templates, I'm starting to build out further. So that'd be one thing I'm paying for ChatGPT is what I finally bit the bullet, because I kept maxing out. Yeah, I kept well, I'm tempted to go for the $200 Pro. Like I'm tempted at that. There's also some HubSpot stuff I'm evaluating that's like $600 a month. But if I don't have to hire another salesperson and I can continue to execute building out these SOPs, and then when we do hire somebody, it's like they just follow these processes. My goal is, before we hire somebody, that's all done for our product. So MRS and down, anything that's basically under $250,000, it's all templatized in tools that we can hire an inside salesperson to just execute.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
That's part of my other energy. I'm
Yeah.
very bummed out. But that's what I've been Googling a lot of. And when I'm feeding Milo at night, I'm watching YouTube videos on how to automate this.
Yeah. For me, I actually remembered one R&D thing we're working on. It's kind of small, but we got a quote for adding TSC to our Haas machine, and it was $12,000 and 16 hours in labor. And we took the thing off, and we're like, this is like a 2-hour project. Anyways, we don't actually need TSC. We need through spindle air, and a lot of our customers do too. A lot of our customers are on Haas. We found a way to do it for, we sell a kit to do it for machines that already have through air. We're probably going to bring out a kit for ones that don't have it, or already have through spindle coolant rather. So we're going to probably bring that out a couple $1,000s, nice far cry away from the $12,000 Haas install.
So was that what you were Googling, is how to hack Haas?
Googling the Haas part numbers, thread gauge on the thing, and trying to reverse search their little rotary union, see if we can. And we found the manufacturer. And
okay, nice.
One of these days we're going to get on Haas's radar, and they're not going to like us very much, but
that's fine.
Yeah,
good competition in the market's healthy.
Yeah. So there was that, and then to be honest, like as far as work goes, there really wasn't much Googling. I'm either in my email, in a HubSpot, on a meeting, or on the floor right now.
You should have been remote or Googling like remote beaches based on your activities for the last week is like,
yeah.
But
yeah. And I'm really trying to push, because seeing how much stuff kind of got backlogged with just that week I was out, knowing I'm going to be out the first week of May, I want to try to push as much as I can to kind of front load that work.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool.
The last one is providing a Q&A. We both failed. We didn't put a Q&A on our socials. We will do better. Something that Develop's aiming to do is we're just going to put it right in one of our bubbles at Instagram. So
the little mini story guys.
You're going to be able to put it there. So then that's just going to live there. Ideally, that should be done here shortly. Our intern's taking finals this week, so he'll be back next week, and then he'll be rolling into summer here in a couple of weeks here, pretty close to full-time stuff. So that'll be good. But I guess I give something personal. I guess it's this weekend.
I want to pause you then. If you're still listening, this is your cue to message one of us on Instagram and ask us a question. And hopefully we don't forget to put it on our stories and come with 0 questions again.
Yeah, and make sure to share it and like it with all your friends that might enjoy this.
Share it, like it, give it a 5-star review. We got that part out.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I mean, if we want to do something personal this week, I'm going to be at the farm all week planting trees. So my dad, since he retired in 2016, the goal has been to plant a minimum of 500 trees every year. And so we got a lot of trees to plant in the next couple weekends.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, something personal for me is, we've always been dog people, Priscilla and I, but we're like becoming dog people. We used to try to take the dogs to the dog park like every week or two, but we had to put them in there, drive, one of them drools. And, we discovered that there's like this impromptu mini dog park just in the normal park, like 2 blocks away from us.
Cool.
Where we just let them off leash and they just run around like crazy. There's tons of dogs.
Nice.
And we've gone like every day, at like 4:30. And it's just like the super great time to unwind. It's nice to see the dogs super happy. Yeah, I never thought I'd be like a dog park everyday person, but here we are.
We walk our dog every night
Yeah.
after dinner, and I absolutely love it. It's so healthy for you.
Yeah. Well, we've
That's
always
cool to
walked
hear.
them like a couple times a day, but it's never been like, oh, we're gonna like go to the dog park and stay for like 90 minutes. Like that's a new.
Oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we go, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life, business, and industrial automation. Thanks so much.